Hi guys, it's Phoebe. Welcome to my channel. Today I'm doing, as you can see, another Classy with the Classics video. This one is a little bit different because it is alcohol free because I woke up a couple of hours ago and I'm tired and there's no way I'm drinking. That being said, in this special edition, we'll be going over to sci-fi classics. We have Stranger in a Strange Land by Robert A. Heinlein and The Left Hand of Darkness by Ursula K. Le Guin. I'm realizing now I should have probably looked up how to pronounce their names before I filmed this, but it's too late now, so we're jumping right in. Let's start with The Left Hand of Darkness. For help looking up notes for it, I used litcharts.com. First, I just want to summarize the book. So the book starts out 2 years into the main character's research mission to the planet Gethin. And I think you say the main character's name, Ginley I. He's there to convince those people to join the Ecumen, which is an interplanetary trade network. The Prime Minister of the capital, Ernenring, in the nation Karhide, the Prime Minister's name is Esterven, and he has been helping I, main character, get a meeting with King Argivin. On the morning of the meeting, Esterven is exiled as a traitor, so I's proposition to join the Ecumen is rejected. After this, I travels to a rural area to meet with the Hondara foretellers, who say in 5 years' time the Gethin will join the Ecumen. I then travels to the kingdom of Orgarain, who seem like they may be more receptive to his mission. He reunites there with Esterven, who had been helping him all along, it turns out. But then I is sent to a prison camp as either a fraud or they think he might be a threat to the rulers of that, the Commensal's power. Esterven feels guilty for the hand that he's played in this and helps break him out of this camp. They begin to attempt to return to Karhide over the northern ice to avoid recapture. And over these months, I is forced to accept Esterven as they are, as neither man nor woman. I'm realizing a flaw I have in this summary. The Gethinians are only one gender or the other a few days out of every month during their Kimmer. And they don't know what gender they will present as from one Kimmer to the next. So once they reach Karhide, I sends a message to his shipmate to join him and help him convince the Gethinians to join the Ecumen. At this point, Esterven ends up getting shot by border patrol guards for violating his exile. But the Gethinians do agree to join the Ecumen, and in a final act of friendship, I brings Esterven's diaries, journals, whatever, to his estranged father and son. And that's how the book ends. So some pretty big themes for this book are obviously, one, sex and gender. So Le Guin wrote this book as a thought experiment during second wave feminism in 1976. So the majority of the book focuses on the parts of society that would change if gender were removed. There's no rape or war on Gethin. Relationships are rarely a lifelong agreement, and things are passed down differently. For example, wealth is not passed down at all, nor is political power. So the most important parent is the parent of the flesh, which would be most closely similar to like a matrilineal society. But there is no technical like matrilineal because it's not really, it's called parent in the flesh because it's not their mother, because it's not a female person. They're genderless. And then jumping into symbols, one important symbol that is referenced is a keystone, which shows connection, unification, and communication. For example, in chapter 11, is it possible that all along in Ernenring he was seeking my advice, not knowing how to tell me that he sought it? If so, then he must have misunderstood half and not understood the rest of what I told him by my fireside in the palace, the night after the ceremony of the keystone. And so, this passage goes on to extrapolate on Terran versus Githinian ways of communication and how they could not understand each other because they see things so differently based on the society's different understandings of gender and sexuality. My final thoughts, my personal thoughts on this book were that it wasn't a bad read. It was obviously pretty groundbreaking for its time, but it's not really revolutionary anymore. And I feel like this might be more problematic for those that go against the gender binary. And the main character of this book, is also pretty misogynistic in the ways that he struggles to understand Githinian's understanding of sex and gender, which was a little frustrating for me just because of where society's conversation is on these issues today, and this book is obviously set in the future. So I would hope that he would have a better grasp on a situation like this, especially if he's an anthropologist studying alien cultures. But at the end of the day, it's not a bad book. It was a very quick read. And I guess if you're into sci-fi classics and stuff, it's one worth checking out, in my opinion. So next we're going to talk about Stranger in a Strange Land by Robert A. Heinlein. And for this book, I got any notes and things that I used from sparknotes.com. So once again, I'll just jump into a summary of this book. So the book starts out, a human expedition was sent to Mars and never heard from again. 25 years later, another expedition is sent, and they end up bringing back Valentine Michael Smith, who is the son of two members from the original expedition. And he's been raised his whole life by Martians. So he is kept highly guarded at a hospital while he's trying to adjust to life on Earth. And the government is also uneasy about him because of some legal precedent called the Larkin decision, where he stands to lay claim to all of Mars, basically. A reporter named Ben Caxton sets up a nurse named Jill Boardman to spy on Mike, the Martian. So Jill eventually breaks him out of the hospital, and she takes him to Jabal Harshaw, who is a doctor / lawyer / writer, and to the house where he lives with his 3 secretaries, Anne, Miriam, and Doris, and 2 male assistants, Duke and Larry. So while they're all together at this house, Mike is learning about life on Earth. And the police eventually come for him, but Jabal contacts Secretary General Joseph Douglas to call off the cops. And then Jabal convinces the government that Mike has no legal claim to Mars since the Martians were there long before he was. And at this point, Mike becomes really interested in religion. So Jubal and Jill take him to visit the Fosterites, which is a large and controversial religious group at this time in the distant future. And now there's some sort of disagreement while they're visiting the Fosterites at their church, and Mike ends up using his mysterious powers to make their main leader, Digby, disappear. Now, Mike decides he wants to see more of the world, so he and Jill join a carnival act. They do end up getting fired for Mike's lack of showmanship. Before they leave, a Fosterite woman named Patty Pywanski visits them to try to convert them to her religion. Mike ends up telling her that he's a man from Mars, which has been a secret up to this point, and she becomes convinced that he is the next prophet after Foster, who started the Fosterite religion. So Mike eventually founds the Church of All Worlds. The church becomes large, but there is a smaller, more exclusive group called the Ninth Circle, and they live together on a commune where they learn Martian psychic powers and engage in group sex. So the group begins to face persecution, and when Mike's church gets burned down, Jubal goes to see how he's doing, basically, even though he has his own reservations about this group. And Mike wonders to him if his work is fruitless, but Jubal encourages him to stay strong with his beliefs. And then a mob gathers, and Mike sacrifices himself to the mob and becomes an archangel alongside Foster and Digby. And that is how the book ends. A theme from this book would be, most obviously, the comparison of Mike to Jesus. It's plain just from the title of this book. His birth on Mars parallels the uniqueness of the birth of Jesus being born from a virgin. And the ninth circle are his disciples. And he even actively chooses to die in such a way that he is sacrificed, similar to how Jesus was sacrificed. There's also an emphasis on the spiritual nature of sex. It's referred to as growing closer, and it's the deepest bond humans can share. And that's why it's so prevalent in his religion. An example of a symbol in this book would be in chapter 30, when Jubal shows Ben 2 sculptures in his garden that he enjoys the most. One is Rodin's, I'm going to butcher this pronunciation, but La Belle Humiliée. I took French, whatever, it doesn't matter. Which represents the beautiful tragedy of female aging. And that parallels Jubal's own aging throughout the book. And the Little Mermaid is another statue referenced, another stranger in a strange land, basically doomed to die in their new environment. My personal final thoughts on this book were that it was actually painful to read. The plot and the story overall just don't really make sense. And in my summary, I left out any reference to the word grokking, which is a word and a concept I found were used way too much in this book. The word grokking is used in place of knowing, but because it's used in the place of knowing, it's like pitched to some like untranslatable Martian word. And the Jesus imagery is also so heavy-handed. I found that really overdone. That being said, thank you guys so much for watching. Kind of recommend, don't recommend at all is how I guess I could leave my true final thoughts for both of those books. I hope you found this enjoyable. Like, comment, subscribe if you want more mediocre content from yours truly. Thanks for watching.